Good evening and welcome to the BizNews Briefing. Today is Monday, the 23rd of February, 2026. I'm Patrick Kidd. On tonight's show, economist Dawie Roodt previews what to watch in Wednesday's budget. A busy Sens roundup featuring Sasol, Nedbank, SPAR and Gemfields. DA MP Ian Cameron outlines his fight against tighter firearm rules. And motorsport insider Anton Roux weighs in on South Africa's Formula One push. Our lead story tonight, economist Dawie Roodt unpacks what South Africans should keep an eye out for ahead of the national budget on Wednesday. He spoke to BizNews editor Alec Hogg this morning.
Let me tell you what I'm a little bit concerned about, and one should always be a little bit worried about that. There is huge pressure on the Minister of Finance. There always will be. There always is. On the Minister of Finance to spend money on A, B, and C. Everybody wants more money for something somewhere. And many people or many of these other ministers that got very good cases that they are bringing to the Minister of Finance to get more money. And unfortunately, what happens quite often, if there's some sort of windfall revenue like what we're probably seeing at the moment, that money will be directed to something that is very important at that moment. Maybe an increase in salaries here and there, or maybe some give more money to Eskom or give more money to the municipalities or whatever. And that's the danger here. And that's the danger of a windfall to any finance minister anywhere in the world. The only way that you can really get politicians to spend less money is to make sure they have less money to spend. And so in a way, it's good news, but that means he will get more money. And if there's more money, then certain expenditure items, like, for example, this COVID grant will become a fixed expenditure item. That's probably what's going to happen. So that is something. It's a good news to overrun the revenue, but there's a downside to that as well. So what are the signs? I think some of the signs that I certainly hope for, or some of the things that the Minister of Finance can do, is to use this windfall to cut some of these very, very damaging taxes. Like, for example, corporate taxes, company taxes. We've got corporate taxes at 27%. That is just far too high. We need to cut back on that. We need to reduce all that. We have to adjust the tax brackets of personal income taxes. They haven't had the taxpayer, the salary earner, hasn't seen any significant changes for bracket creep. So inflation actually pushed the taxpayer up into higher brackets for many years now. We need to do something about that. But overall, if I was the Minister of Finance, I will start with a program to dramatically simplify the total tax regime in South Africa. It is hopefully expensive. It is very, very complicated. It is very, very unfair. So I would certainly overhaul the whole tax environment. But if there's one single number that I think that the market will look at, well, two numbers. The first one is the fiscal deficit, and I think the fiscal deficit will look better than originally estimated by the Minister of Finance. We're probably talking about the fiscal deficit just below 4%, which is still far too high, but it's not as bad as where it was. And the second number is the Minister's expectations in terms of the debt to GDP ratio. And alas, the previous years, we simply didn't believe him, rightfully so. And the reason was there were various reasons for that. But this time around, I think the financial markets will actually, if he says he's going to stabilize the debt to GDP ratio at 78% in 2 years' time and then bring it down to 77 and lower, I think the markets this time around will agree with him. And I think we're going to see it in things like bond yields coming down even further. And we could even see it in the rand appreciating and doing a little bit better as well. So those are the kind of numbers and things that I will be looking out for.
Turning to today's Sens update, Sasol's numbers disappoint. Nedbank's Kenya deal moves closer. SPAR faces a major lawsuit, and Gemfields' Ruby auction highlights a two-speed market.
Sasol released its half-year results this morning, and it's a tough read for investors. Despite significant operational improvements, including a 10% production bump at Secunda and a brand new destoning plant, the numbers were hammered by a stronger rand and lower oil prices. Headline earnings fell by a third, impairments of 8 billion rand, that means writing off the value of assets in the balance sheet, wiped out basic earnings. With net debt sitting at $3.8 billion, the dividend remains firmly suspended. Nedbank is edging closer to its massive expansion in East Africa. Last month, the bank launched a bid to acquire 2/3 of Kenya's NCBA group. This morning, Nedbank announced on the Stock Exchange News Service that it had secured a crucial regulatory exemption from Kenya's Capital Markets Authority. This means the bank won't be forced into a mandatory 100% buyout of NCBA. The bank also revealed growing support for the takeover. Shareholders holding more than 77.5% of NCBA have now signed irrevocable commitments to accept Nedbank's offer. That's up from 71.2% last month. While some final conditions remain, this cross-border deal looks solidly on track. The SPAR Group's latest trading update for the 18 weeks to end January paints a challenging picture for the retailer. Group sales grew a sluggish 2.1%, dragged down by a near flat 0.9% wholesale growth in South Africa. Margins also took a hit from aggressive Black Friday pricing and ongoing recovery efforts in KwaZulu-Natal. Adding to the drama, SPAR confirmed it faces a massive lawsuit over its botched SAP software rollout at the KZN distribution centre. Franchisees are reportedly claiming over 168 million rand in damages from SPAR. There is a silver lining. The group is close to offloading its UK business without needing to inject any further cash. Gemstone miner Gemfields announced on the Stock Exchange News Service today that it generated $53 million at its latest ruby auction. The sale, delayed from December, moved almost 190,000 carats. While fine quality stones fetched strong prices, bidding on lower grades was notably muted. Management blames sluggish Chinese demand and a flood of competing rubies from illegal mining networks at its Montepuez mine in Mozambique. Despite ongoing infrastructure sabotage by these illegal miners, Gemfields successfully debuted rubies from its newly expanded processing plant.
Speaking to BizNews journalist Chris Steyn this morning, DA MP Ian Cameron outlined his party's opposition to proposed firearm law changes. He says the DA will push back through Nedbank, Cabinet and Parliament, and that the focus should rather shift to illegal firearms.
This is not a matter that we're going to give an inch on. There will be no compromise. It's already one of the heaviest regulated spaces in the country. It's one that comes with significant frustration due to the state's inability to make sure that they allow for those regulations to run smoothly. And it goes along with a whole lot of cost and delays. Nevertheless, law-abiding citizens continue to stick to it and to abide by the rules that the state has put in place. So, with regard to the Nedbank process, it must now go back. The amendment bill must go back with the feedback from Nedbank to the Civilian Secretariat of Police. Who exactly in the Secretariat is driving this thing so hard, I do not know. I'll come back to that again now. But from there, it must essentially go to Cabinet. And if for some strange reason it passes through Cabinet, it must come to the Portfolio Committee on Police. And then I must put on another hat. And then we must go through a process of looking at this piece of legislation. But just back to Cabinet first. From a DA point of view, we've made it very clear that we will counter it in Cabinet. It will be fought there. And if for some or other strange reason it comes through to a parliamentary level, it will be fought there too. And if need be, we will consider legal remedies as well. So this isn't an overnight battle that will be resolved in a short space of time. I also don't think it's the last one. This is a typical ANC move, and if you read the National Democratic Revolution and everything that motivates it, it is a typical move of testing the balance of forces. And if the resistance is high enough to it, they will collapse, and they will try again and test the water again later. And if there isn't enough resistance, they will push it through, as they've done with many other things. So those are probably the three main remedies from our side. But obviously, I can't stress it enough that civil society is the biggest stakeholder in this, and we will do what we can to support them. I do what I can to make sure that their voices are heard on any platform that I have access to. But we will not take this lying down. This is, in essence, the biggest threat to your right to own property in South Africa, the biggest threat to any kind of freedom that you are meant to have in South Africa. Because once this is done, once only the state has access to firearms, it usually leads to tyranny.
Robertson, a small town in the middle of nowhere where a wine farmer claims to have sold a Volkswagen up to We Buy Cars.
A farmer.
What car did you really sell them?
A VW.
Right here in Robertson.
Small town, but we know about We Buy Cars.
Yeah, but what's a farmer doing with a VW up?
It was just a runaround.
Cool cover story. And I see you traded it in for this, like a double cab Renault. Were they all out of ranges?
We Buy Cars, the easiest way to sell your car by far.
And closing out tonight's show, former FIA Senate member and current FIA Foundation trustee, Anton Roux, gives Sports Minister Gayton McKenzie some ideas to bring Formula One back to South Africa. He spoke to BizNews' Linda van Tilburg on Friday.
I think you can improve the channels that you want to use. Again, I think if you show credibility that you've hosted international events in the past. We had a great Formula E event, for example, in Cape Town. We've had the World Rally Raid Championship, a leg of that, and use that as your sounding board, and then engage with the FIA, then engage with the Formula One management company, and show that. But just to say that you are going to host an event and South Africa is no longer the darling of the world. I can look at the other countries when I've been to. In December, I was in Uzbekistan. You've got the president of the country present. In Rwanda, we had the president of Rwanda at an award function, not even an event. So from a South African point of view, I don't think anybody is going to be convinced that the politicians are behind this event. I had another minister say to one of my colleagues that they can't really see the benefit of it because we're promoting a white elite sport. Now, the big thing to me is Formula One is not about the sport. It's entertainment and it's opportunity to showcase the country. And the biggest benefactor of a Formula One event is not sport, it's tourism.
That's been tonight's BizNews Briefing. I'm Patrick Kidd for BizNews.com. Thanks so much for joining us tonight, and we'll see you tomorrow.